Tonight on the Henry Rollins Show, Kevin Smith joins us to discuss Clerks 2. And the legendary New York Dolls are back, and they're here to perform a song off their new album titled, One Day It Will Please Us to Remember Even This. It's gonna be a great show, folks. Don't move. At the airport, I check myself in at a computerized touchscreen. I pay bills on the phone without ever talking to a living person. I've wrung myself out at many retail outlets, bagged my bought goods, and left. Many companies have removed the human element at point of purchase. It's not bad when I'm actually doing the scanning and screen touching, not so great when I'm at the airport, stuck behind the elderly woman who talks to the machine, asking it to give her back her medical insurance card she mistakenly put in the slot. Also, not so great to go through all the steps only to be told to see some agent at check-in. On the internet, millions of us point, click, and score everything from food to Laotian brides. Some people miss the human interaction of places like the supermarket where they have superficial mini-conversations with the cashier. They get angry when their satellite dish stops working and they have to call in and almost fool the touchtone system to get a human to talk to them. When they order something online, they're sometimes unsure that their credit card number and other sensitive information is being protected, where if a human took down all that information, they would feel somehow better and safer. It would be very easy for me to decry this modern age of machines taking the place of warm-blooded human interaction, but I can't. Truth be told, I would rather deal with a machine than a fucking idiot at a store who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he hates his job and would rather be somewhere else. I quite enjoy scanning my purchase at Home Depot and not standing in a long line of people waiting for the moron behind the register to figure out how to make change from a $100 bill. I like buying CDs online so I don't have to stand at the counter and get a long look from some fucking hipster sack of recessive traits who doesn't like my taste in music. Most of the time, I would rather limit my human interaction in public to fun stuff like pepper gassing Hummer drivers. Long live machines and cold, bloodless transactions. Joining me now is writer and director Kevin Smith, whose career started with the very independent feature Clerks and has continued with films like Chasing Amy and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. After television projects, acting roles, writing for comic books, and opening his own comic stores, Kevin is returning to his roots with Clerks 2. Kevin, thanks for showing up.
Excellent
for coming
meeting you,
in
sir.
here.
Thanks for having.
Clerks developed not only a cult following, but it developed what could easily be considered a phenomenon. How did the effect of all that excitement around the film affect you?
You know, it's strange. It's wonderful when somebody kind of, or a lot of somebody's embraced the flick. I mean, it's communication medium, right? It's like you hurling a message out in the void, seeing how many people respond, seeing how many people identify with what you're talking about. But the movie itself never played, Clerks, never played on more than 50 screens at once. It was a real, like, art house release and whatnot. I became kind of the face of the stuff we do, but by virtue of the fact that the first movie we did, there was nobody to kind of throw out there on the road, and since it was an indie film, like, the director is always, you know, the guy that people want to talk to since they don't know anybody in the cast. So I quickly became the face of the stuff that we do, and it's, you know, it's gratifying in some way, and then on other levels, you're like, man, wouldn't it be nice if fucking somebody else would talk about the picture?
Well, what inspired you to come up to do the sequel, Clerks 2?
You know, that was like one of those things where everything kind of happens at once, and you kind of, there's this Taoist proverb, I believe, that I've always loved, and it was, to be great is to go on is to go far is to return, and that really kind of clicked with me when it came to Clerks 2. But also, Jersey Girl played a role in it as well, and it wasn't so much like some people online will have hypothesized that well, Jersey Girl didn't work or it was a commercial failure or something like that. And so he's just, you know, scared. So he's going back to what he's most familiar with. And they've kind of like, you know, missed the target, bit the tree. It's not exactly, that wasn't it. Working on Jersey Girl definitely played a role. And the role was this. After making a movie with two of the most famous people in the world at that point, I just wanted to make a movie with people that nobody really knew that well except for me.
Right.
That was like Brian and Jeff. And it's not to knock Ben or Jen, but it's just, it's fucking strange when you spend like 2 years trying to tell a story, something that really means something to you. And then when you sit down in an interview, you know, setting, all they want to talk about is like, have you seen The Big Pink Diamond? You know, how are they as a couple and shit like that? And you're like, what's this have to do with the movie? And suddenly the backstory is bigger than the story you were trying to tell.
It's not exactly a message movie, Clerks 2, but there's stuff you're trying to get across. You know, because we're seeing these guys, you know, they're like a lot of people. They're just kind of like pedaling through their 20s. Now they're in their 30s, and they've kind of hit that, not exact dead end, but like a lot of people in their early 30s, like, you know, what the fuck am I going to do now?
You know, it's always occurred to me that like our generation, or maybe mine, I'm not sure, has been the first generation where you weren't really expected to immediately go out, get a job, and start your life. My generation seems to be the one where everyone kind of collectively said like, well, I'll play the game, but I'm gonna play it by my rules. Like, I'll get a job when it's a job that I'm comfortable with. Like, my father worked at the post office all his life, at the night shift at a sectional center in New Jersey, and he worked from 11 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. And the dude's job was to cancel your fucking stamp. Like, nothing more soul-killing than that. Dude's sitting at a machine, canceling fucking stamps.
Ooh, right.
So the lesson I took from my father's life at work was, man, all right, I understand I got to earn, but like, I want to do something that I feel kind of comfortable doing. And that's why I worked at convenience stores for so long. I did like 10 years at fucking convenience stores. Such a great job, especially a mom and pop shop where mom and pop didn't live anywhere near the store. Like that Quick Stop I worked at, owned by this lovely couple named the Toppers, and it's in suburban New Jersey in Leonardo, and they lived in Staten Island, about half hour, 45 minutes away. So they were looking for somebody to run the store because these cats, they wanted somebody else to do the work so they didn't have to devote all their time to it. So that place was great because I'd get in and they'd be like, bye, and they'd take the fuck off, and I was left to run the shop. You know, you could sit there and kind of relax and watch TV. I'd bring a word processor down, I'd write and stuff like that. And that to me was an ideal job. And the kind of thing that got frowned on by everybody else, even my parents. My parents were just like, one day I'll grow up and get a real job. And when I told them that I wanted to get into film, you know, they looked at me like I was like, I'm gonna blow you, Dad. You know, it was just like such a foreign notion. They were like, what, film? What are you talking about? But that to me seemed like an ideal job. I saw Richard Linklater's film Slacker, and I was like, shit, this is what I'd like to do. Like, tell stories that don't necessarily have to play in a multiplex, but like can play to like this many people, and if I'm making it for this little money, you know, there's no, it's a no lose scenario unless nobody goes. So I got into indie film, and it kind of worked for me. You know, like suddenly Clerks got picked up, and I was kind of off and running. I went overnight from having a job to having a career, and you know, I realized, I totally recognized that situation was about luck and timing more so than talent. We said the right thing at the right moment. We said something about being overeducated and underemployed of 20-somethings at the right time. And suddenly it kind of fucking clicked and was responsible for me having a career.
Well, let's talk about Clerks 2. I saw it the other day, and there's some moments in it, like the dialogue, you know, some of the stuff Rosario Dawson's saying, she's so great. You're like, whoa!
Yeah.
And it is just, it's content. It doesn't matter whose mouth it's coming out of.
Right.
So, you know, attractive woman saying this stuff.
Right.
It kind of, you know, I guess
when
I'm
you
a
get
prude.
when you have a Rosario Dawson advocating ass to mouth.
Yeah, all that. Thank you for saying it for me. And then when I found out it was like R, were you surprised by that?
I was fucking flabbergasted. We'd had battles with the MPA in the past. On Clerks, they gave us an NC-17.
Yeah.
And we went through an appeals process, got it turned over to an R without making a cut. And that's the key. You can take any movie from an NC-17 to an R, but usually you have to make cuts to get it. Going into Clerks 2 in the MPA screening, I was just like, there's no fucking way. Like, I was getting ready for the jihad of all jihads. I thought like I was gonna battle it up. I was getting all my arguments ready to say a chapter and verse of other movies that were R, that had stuff, like getting ready to be like Bachelor Party had a donkey show. Why can't we have a donkey show? Granted, ours is a little more graphic. But I was ready. I was so ready, you know, to get up there and kind of stand up for it as to why it should be an R. while in the back of my mind going, this is clearly an NC-17 movie. You know, like there's no way I'm gonna skate with this. And then I get the call from this dude, Ethan Noble at the Weinstein Company. He's like, how's your day going? I was like, it was going well until now, yeah, because I know what's fucking coming. He's like, no, you don't, you got an R. And I could not I was flabbergasted and delighted because it meant my life would be a lot easier, because otherwise I would get into the recuts and trying to get it to an R because there was a lot of fucking bank riding on it between being an NC-17 and an R. Because the Weinstein Company, I think when Harvey and Bob gave us money for the movie, they thought he's gonna make a movie for his fans and that's that. And then they saw the movie and both of their reactions completely changed. Like both of them were like, Bob Weinstein was just like, I had no idea you were making a real movie. This is really good. And I was just like, Bob, what's said in that comment without being said? He's like, I really didn't think about it much. He's going, but like, you got it all. It's funny. It's got some heart to it. He's going, like, tells a story. It's just, and it's pretty out there. So suddenly it goes from them going, all right, we'll throw it in a few theaters for his fans, to them going like, we could put this out there and it could play in the middle of summer, you know, especially in a world where like the 40-year-old virgin and Wedding Crashers plays to a larger audience. Like they feel like this ain't gonna play to as large an audience as that, but has a shot at making some loot. It is a business, and at the end of the day, as long as they can turn a profit from you, they're happy to finance the next thing. But the moment you start losing the money, forget it. You'd be kicked out. That's true of any place, though.
Yeah. Well, I hope you keep using Jason Mewes every great once in a while.
Isn't he great?
'Cause I'm just a great fan of his.
Yes.
And I did that movie Feast with him a couple of years ago. So we shared a trailer. And I just dug, you know, meeting the guy, and every day, you know, he comes in his big truck with the music blaring. I'm like, he's got a lot of energy. It was fun to hang out with him.
He's a really good guy. I was saying before, he's got $1 million heart, nickel head, but $1 million heart, you know, and like he went through some big ass drug problems and shit like that, and he's all cleaned up now, because he was bad. We thought we lost him many, many times, because it wasn't just like, you know, dude drank a little much or smoked a little too much weed. He was heroin, he was OxyContin, he was fucking, and we couldn't get his hands on that shit. He was on crack benders for weeks at a time. Like I remember picking him up at one point at his house to go shoot a music video for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and I didn't see him in a month because we stopped shooting and I was editing the movie, and he went back to Jersey. I went to pick him up at his place. And then this dude comes out of Mewes' house, and it's hardcore junkie, just fucking bone, like a skeleton with skin pulled over. And I was like, God damn it, fucking Mewes is hanging out with crackheads that look like Mewes now, because it kind of looked like Jason. Then that crackhead got in my fucking car, and I was just like, what the fuck? The dude lost like 30 pounds in the span of a month. Now I lose 30 pounds, people go, you look like you lost a little weight. Mewes loses 30 pounds. That's a fucking human skeleton. Yeah. And there was one point somebody called me up, I think it was from People magazine. They were like, do you have any comment on the death of your friend Jason Mewes? I was like, what? Oh. What are you fucking talking about? Because he'd gone missing for weeks at a time. Somebody reported him dead. And I told him that. Next time I saw him, I was like, dude, People magazine said you're dead. He was like, that's pretty funny. I said, no, dude, it's not. It's not funny to receive that call. And it wasn't like a dude who was like chasing the dragon or like, I just want to get high. It was a dude who was like terrified of the come down, terrified of like going through withdrawals and DTs, couldn't stand the fucking pain. He was just going to the fucking dentist and having teeth pulled out just so he can get prescriptions to OxyContin. So he fucked up his whole mouth. He got in some trouble in Jersey. There was a bench warrant for his arrest, so he had to go to court, and they said, we're gonna give you 6 months mandatory rehab sentence, either that or go to jail. And Mewes was just like, I had to think about it. And I was like, you're out of your fucking mind, dude, in jail. Like, at least in rehab, chances of you getting raped, lower than fucking jail. So at that 6-month court-mandated rehab stint in Jersey, that's where it all turned around for him. That's where it clicked. And he suddenly was just like, I'm almost 30, I can't live like this anymore. And he just turned it around. So now April 6th, he just celebrated 3 years completely clean, sober, doesn't drink, doesn't do anything. And it's weird, you meet motherfuckers who are just like, he must not be funny anymore. And you're like, have you ever hung out with a fucking junkie? Like, there's nothing funny about a dude who nods out in the middle of a conversation. Like, he's funny now, much funnier now, because he's crisp.
Yeah, he was
and all his endorphins are fine. Yeah, because he's in a great place now.
Oh, that's cool. Well, in closing, let me say this. I hope things continue to go well for you, but don't take this the wrong way. I hope you don't change.
No, sir. I'd take that as a fucking compliment.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Coming up a little later in the show, an exclusive musical performance from the New York Dolls. But first, My World, animated in Drawing Conclusions.
know I tread on risky material, because if you talk about anything gay or racial, all of a sudden you're homophobic and you're a racist. No, people get tripped out, you know, because there's a lot of that bad stuff around. I used to live on Maltman and Sunset, and I'd walk late at night down to that liquor store, with Mr. Happy's liquor store, and there's that diner, that really crap diner there. And these really intense guys would be hanging out, and I'd walk by like, hey, how you doing? They're like, oh yeah. Black flag, all right, yeah. Oh yeah, fucker, oh yeah. Six pack, oh yeah. I'm like, thank you. I live next door to like a house like with 5 gay guys. And you know how you guys are. You're thinking about sex all the time, you know, unless you're into the Smiths or the Cure or something. And then you're into some other shit. And you know what? That's cool too. You're still my friend, you know? But the guys next door, they would get it on all the time because they're guys living with guys who are into guys. And so it's like, well, it's like noon. Let's fuck. Woo! And they were never subtle. It was not like, let's make love. Oh. It was, yeah! These guys would be getting it on next to me. You know, and you could hear it like through the side of the house, through their house. And you're just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh come on, and I just thought it was so cool. Cause you hear like, you know, like this loin slapping. And like, yeah, and you hear like this bed's like creaking, something's banging against the wall. I would put on the Mob Rules album by Sabbath. Because Dio's vocals on there are so fucking righteous. And I thought it would like get them fucking psyched up. I wasn't trying to drown them out, I was trying to like get them just so you like blow the roof off the place.
When President Bush was first elected, I laughed at all the conspiracy theorists who claimed he led a death cult. They said he wanted to destroy American democracy and replace it with a theocratic dictatorship intent on invading the Middle East and triggering Armageddon. Well, I was kind of wrong to laugh, so I've changed my mind. As long as there's a conspiracy theory that has just a pinky toe dipped in reality, I'll believe that the military-industrial complex or the Jesuits are involved, because I hate to be wrong. Now, if it ends up that the World Bank is manipulating the outcome of American Idol in order to punish Argentina's economy, I want to know about it before everybody else does. So, to fully immerse myself into the world of conspiracy, I searched out a great man who I'll call Dan Rather to protect his true identity. Guaranteeing our secrecy, we met in a dark alley behind a parking garage and hid in a dumpster wearing masks over double blindfolds. It stank like a musky pig, but it was the smell of truth. Dan Rather taught me all about the hidden plots that were occurring right under our noses like an evil mustache that hates your mouth's freedom. This is what he said. John Kennedy's killer was actually hiding in Jackie's hair. The moon landings were actually filmed on the set of I Dream of Jeannie. Christopher Columbus wasn't lying when he said that America was overrun with Sasquatches and clones. There's an alien population living among us, and they survive on cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper. And finally, Elvis is living as a freedom fighter in South America. They call him Subcomandante Brad now, and he'll never sing Blue Suede Shoes no matter how much it'll help the revolution. I've seen the light. Now, come and join me and Dan Rather in the underground. And now, here's Heidi May with this week's musical performance from the New York Dolls.
Thanks, Henry. The New York Dolls formed in the early 70s and quickly became the world's most outrageous band. Starting out as pioneers of New York's downtown music scene, they went on to change the face of rock and roll worldwide. Sadly, members Billy Murcia, Jerry Nolan, Johnny Thunders, and Arthur Killer Kane are no longer with us. Today, original Dolls David Johansen and Sylvain, along with new Dolls Steve, Brian, and Sammy, are here to perform Dance Like a Monkey off their brand new album. I can't believe I get to say, this is the New York Dolls Uncut.
Thank you again to my guests, the New York Dolls and Kevin Smith. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.